Greetings, hello and welcome back to Longmore of the Chosen, and we're doing our annual campaignual class review, or whatever I want to call it. Me rambling for an hour about the classes we used in the campaign and their specs and what I think about class balance. So if you're new here, I basically at the end of every campaign I review what kind of classes and specs I built in that campaign, how it turned out. And I think especially on this campaign where I tried to have a different spec for each soldier, that might give us some new insights. Now, keep in mind, anything that I'm about to say is really just based on my experience in this campaign and just the experience from a single player, from a single campaign. Campaign should never be used as the one and true and only fact, or be used, okay, everything needs to change according to this guy's thoughts. Having that out of the way, let's start with the hero classes. Now, let's start on the right with our skirmisher here. And you might say, hey, you barely used that skirmisher this campaign, 18 missions, 61 kills, feels really low. Do you think the skirmisher is weak? No, on the contrary. This was always kind of... I think the skirmisher is probably the strongest hero class start, if you select a specific class, and this is kind of my comfort zone class, where I'm like, kind of kept him probably on fewer missions just to have him available in case any difficult mission comes up. It's like, okay, then you know, I have a big problem, let's get the big problem solver. And this is kind of my go-to comfort zone here, also with this spec layout. I have to say, I'm always a little bit... part of me wants to try out something new, but the other part just says, no, let's go back to the comfort zone. I know how to play this class, I know how to get big value out of it, I like the mobility, I like the hit and run, reposition effects, etc. There's probably some things that I can still explore which might make it stronger, or maybe not, I don't know. There's things in this tree, I gotta openly admit, Interrupt, Battle Lord, I don't think I've ever taken these abilities in any campaign. So just ignoring them because, oh, this reads weird, I'm not gonna take it. Maybe at some point I just have to take them in a campaign and see how bad or good they actually are. So for me, just a comfort zone to fall back into. Not too much to say here. Like, I think there's a lot of other viable picks out there, like manual override will depend a lot on the kind of squads you're going out with. So I think this is not an automatic skip here on Tech Sergeant. Again, Reckoning versus Lethal is always a tough choice, although I've gotten used to Reckoning now, so I'm happy about this one. There's a lot of things you can do with combat presence. It's basically a command on cooldown, which is just really good, but also, you know, impeccable is safety net. I really wish Justice and Wrath were in some way better or more easily available. I think they're fun abilities, I just don't think they're strong abilities, and so they always fall short. Not a fan of grenade specs on not grenade soldiers. Let's do a little grenade rant here. I think grenades can do three things, right? They can do damage, they can do environmental destruction, or they can apply status effects. I think in order to do damage you need biggest booms and probably either tandem warheads or heat warheads, which, you know, we don't have access to, so damaging grenade, not really. To apply status effects, you want to have a bigger radius, so volatile mix, probably. And for environmental destruction, you need a different game than Longmore. You need combat engineer, basically, which only the grenadier gets as master sergeant. At that point, you don't really need it anymore. So it's like, it's a grenade that falls off, you know, like for the damaging part. Stuff like biggest booms and let's say tandem, which is my preferred choice, we're talking about 3 to 4 additional points of damage on a grenade, and a plasma grenade does 4 to 8, so on average 6 damage. Missing out on 4 damage on your 6 damage grenades is a little bit of a big deal, so that's why I'm just not a fan of like grenade specs that don't have these perks. And yeah, that's why Total Combat here I'll never take. Total Combat on the Reaper, I don't think I see much room for it. It's a completely overpowered perk, right? There's so much stuff in there. Mobility, aim, grenade slot, grenades bigger, throw grenades further, but it feels one-dimensional and then kind of falls off very quickly. It's probably very strong in the early game, but late game throwing an unspec'd grenade just seems like a waste of a turn compared to a shot from a plasma weapon. Anyway, skirmisher. Enough about that. Reaper. We got 21 missions, 103 kills, a lot of kills, and at the moment, I think when fighting the Chosen, probably the only one of the hero classes that's really reliably good against the Chosen. Like the others have strengths, but not against the Chosen fights himself. And I'm still falling back on the safety cushion of Banish to kill Chosen, even though fight against the Assassin has showed that it's not the one-stop kill for all of them necessarily. I think Banish is in a better place than it used to be, so it has been definitely toned down and made weaker without completely killing it. Now, initially, when it was changed to 20 aim reduction per shot, I thought it's a dead pick. Now, since True Predator has been added, and you can make Banish better with this, I think it's back on track to be a viable and strong choice. Like, it's definitely strong. I don't think it's too strong. There's certainly other ways to deal with the Chosen. I chose in this campaign really to rely heavily on Banish, and this might throw a bit of a bad light on it as being something that's necessary and you always have to take it, it's overpowered. I don't think it is. And I think in future campaigns we're going to do some non-Banish stuff again, just to show that the Reaper is more than that. So yeah, other than that, kind of eager in the future campaign to play with a knife spec again, because that's always been fun, but we'll have to see. We've done Death Dealer in the past as opposed to Banish. I'm not sure if on a campaign here or if it was a streamed campaign, but that also can do some respectable crits. That was also always kind of good. Yeah, definitely strong. Takes a little while to get going. Good choice. Now, the one that got the most changes was, of course, the Templar. Got rid of the shields, which, hey, one less item you have to upgrade. And okay, let's actually go through this way. 28 missions, 86 skills is, you know, solid performance. Try to bring them often to try out the new stuff. As I said in the last mission, I think I underused Soul Shot, but that's probably because it's a new ability and you always don't always think, oh, I could use Soul Shot instead. I'm still not sure though. Even with all of that, giving up Stun Strike is a tough one. Like I'm personally, I'm not gonna comment too much on the tanking perks because I'm just not a fan of tanking specs. That I don't think that's a secret. So, like for me personally, all these perks down here have very little value, but that's just a playstyle thing. I don't think they're bad choices, but you know, whatever you prefer personally. I do like my invert. I kind of missed playing around with Pillar, although I don't think we had too many opportunities to use that, but that's more a matter of just not having it and then not thinking about the opportunities. Like, to me, these two are like the unique selling points. No other class has this kind of stuff, and that's why I liked playing around with Templar so much. I do still think that invert should be allowed again on the Chosen, just to, you know, at the moment for me it's very often, oh, we're fighting a Chosen, I'm not going to bring a Templar, because most of them have abilities that reduce damage from melee, or bigger chance to dodge in melee, or reduce damage from charging melee attacks, and all this kind of stuff, where it's just like, okay, guess I'm not bringing any melee class. Now, you could say, okay, if you take Amplify, that's a strong thing to put on the Chosen, 50% additional damage. Again, probably things I have to play around with a little bit more. Having only one Templar in the campaign means you don't really get to experiment all that much, also considering the prohibitive respec costs that are in the game at the moment. What else? Not much else. Well, I'm still the Master Sergeant perks for Templar always feel a little bit weird. I don't like losing all my focus like on Apo or even on the Psionics Storm, because then you kind of start from zero again. I think Ghost is probably going to be more my choice in the future. I don't feel Apotheosis. It doesn't feel impactful enough. I don't know. It's hard to say. Maybe it should last longer. I don't know. We used it on the Forge mission that I just played what, yesterday or so. So that soul shot on the super heavy, yeah, that was a big damage number, but there was also a lot of investment. Anyway, yeah, that's the Templar. Alright, let's move on to some other classes. Well, it did say move on to other classes. Well, it's one other class that saw a big rework, the Spark. We did have him on 20 missions and only got 48 kills, which is, you know, kind of a low-ish number compared to others. But we also might not have had the best spec. I don't know. It kind of worked. Like this was a little bit of a meme build because, hey, I really wanted to do assault servers, to punch people in the face with a big robot, relive enemy within a little bit, while also not fully going into these kind of tanky perks for robots, since you know, getting in their face. Generally, about the rework of the Spark, I like that the whole Hunter Protocol meta builds where there's only one build for the Spark is dead and buried, and I'm not missing that. It's good that that's gone. God, must have been a lot of willpower needed by myself to not build Killzone with Cool Under Pressure and the XCOM row here. Anyway, yeah, XCOM row, I do like. I'm a big fan of XCOM rows in general, and I think that can often influence how you build your units. So that's fun to have that on the Spark tree now. Again, I can't really comment on the other potential builds that I haven't used here. I think there is definitely a lot of useful stuff still here. Like, you go the standard shooty stuff, like with adaptive aim, hollow, and shredder, is never going to be bad. That's just really going to be solid. Collateral as reliable cover destruction, and traverse fire as a multi-fire perk. It's just good. Although traverse fire kind of having very little effect under overdrive. Whatever. What I didn't like about the punching spec is that kinetic strike has a cooldown. You know, maybe if we take assault servos, we lose the cooldown on kinetic strike, so I can punch somebody every turn. Feels kind of cheated out of your potential if you spec into the melee punches, and then you can't punch every single turn. I'm already losing out on multi-target attacks. At least allow me to hit people in the face with my robot fist, right? But overall, still a solid good thing, and I should really build more than one spark in some campaigns in the future. Probably not in the next one, but okay. Moving on. Let's go through the regular classes, and we're gonna go through that in an alphabetical manner, which starts us off with the assault. We've had 4 assaults this campaign. 2 of them made it to Master Sergeant. On the one hand, our workhorse, I want to say, Killer Instinct assault build, with, yeah, I always say this can be rapid fire, this can be close encounters. I usually go for close encounters if I have high mobility, and because I can reliably, in a blue move, get in close range and take a shot at something else. But also you can have these insane damage turns where you trigger run and gun, get the damage boost from Killer Instinct, and then rapid fire something for insane amount of damage. Although most of the time your second shot never fires because the enemy is dead after the first shot. So that's also one of the reasons why I prefer close encounters. That being said, Killer Instinct is kind of a workhorse of a spec, and I like it. I don't think Stun Gun Assault really worked. There's always, I feel like this gap here where you don't get anything that improves your stun gun. Maybe something like Quick Zap should be on the normal tree, or was something else that makes the stun gun more effective. There's also, it's hard to judge the specs because big factor is always going to be at what point in the campaign did I get this soldier, or did I decide to spec the soldier this way? Like, somebody who was on Gatecrasher is more likely to hit Master Sergeant than somebody who was a rookie from a jailbreak in the middle of April, and I said, oh, okay, let's build a stun gunner. So that's maybe if we had stun gunned our very first assault, we would have different results here, and I would be gushing all the way about, oh, Chain Lightning's so good now. That's speculation now, because I don't think the golden days of Chain Lightning were in World War II, and they were incredibly broken. But yeah, that's we're not there anymore. And definitely rifle assault. The few times when we ran with a rifle here on El Capitano was a little bit underwhelming. Not gonna lie. What else? Yeah, then we have this. Whatever this is, a non-Killer Instinct assault with tanky perks, and he barely needed to tank. It's like, yeah, we built something different. It didn't quite work out. I mean, he didn't perform poorly, I would say. 22-62. I think that's kind of almost the same, even a better mission to kill ratio than Hopper. But it always felt weaker. Like this was once again like a safety net, reliable. Oh, I need to win a mission. Let's bring Hopper, especially with Flame Wolf. The Bond pair worked out way better than here. This Bond pair with a sniper. That's also a factor that comes into play. The other thing I kind of want to point out or want to look at here. Close combat specialist. I still always think about this discussion that I read on the Discord once, where someone was asking, oh, what do I take at Gunnery Sergeant? And someone said, no, Untouchable is a noob trap, close combat specialist is the best pick. And it's been, in this campaign, for me, so underwhelming and poor. I just don't see... I don't see that. Like, this is I've taken it this campaign just because we wanted to do different specs. I don't see that for me personally as a viable choice on this row, and it's always going to be Untouchable because Bring 'em On doesn't scale good enough, and this is just not reliable enough. If a drone comes at me, I need this to kill the drone and not have a 70% chance to hit. and that's what we got. So, and if I can't even kill a drone with it, it just eats through my ammo and does nothing. Anyway, my little CCS round. It's great if you can get cool under pressure and you can actually crit with those CCS shots, but assaults can't get that. That's specifically been removed from the tree, from the XCOM deck. So, anyway, moving on. Moving on to the Grenadier. I do remember getting a little bit of flack here when we had our first Grenadier with Lone Wolf, Shredder, Hollow Targeting, all these other perks, and I think he had also fairly decent aim for a soldier, and I said, yeah. And it was the first Grenadier to promote, and then I said, yeah, okay, but I'm gonna go do damage grenades instead of a shooting build, even though Grenadier shooting build doesn't really exist, I want to say. So I just needed that reliable action, high kill count, just damage dealing potential, and that's still going to be my main grenade build. We did then try this shooting stuff here a little bit. Again, there's the factor of he wasn't the first, he was, I think, the third Grenadier we promoted, so that naturally means he was lagging behind, so we never really got to the full potential. The idea of firing grenade with salvo that destroys cover, we never even got there, because, yeah, Sapper is a thing, but it doesn't really... it doesn't really help with the cover destruction, let's be honest. Like, Sapper is, instead of having a, whatever, 20% chance to destroy the cover, now you have a 40% chance. That's not reliable cover destruction. You need combat engineer. Those are not the actual numbers, just so that you don't misunderstand me. It doesn't boost your cover destruction. Like, the description of saying you can destroy many cover objects is just, you know, that's marketing speech. So the general idea of, you know, salvo grenade with combat engineer destroying cover, and then I can chain shot the enemy to death with the aim bonus from Predator, that sounds great on paper. It just didn't work out, because we also really never got there, and I think the XCOM role here is way weaker to support this, and it's a meme. Right? Shooty Grenadier is a meme and it doesn't work out, and I'm not gonna ever build that again. Probably, don't quote me on that. Andy here was just our second damage Grenadier that I think he was injured a little bit too much, or was lagging behind too much as the fourth Grenadier, so I wouldn't draw any conclusions from that. I did enjoy having a officer support Grenadier, Sting Grenade Grenadier again. I think I haven't built those in a while, or at least didn't get them high enough level in a while. Now, we never reached Master Sergeant. There's still the feeling of Sting Grenades being massively nerfed compared to Long War II, just because of the existence of priests, and especially elite priests later on, that just cleanse every debuff from anyone in their squad. That is a big factor, which kind of shies me away a little bit from Sting Grenades, but I might go back to this in the future. It kind of worked. It wasn't terrible. Smoke Grenades are still ass. So I don't see any place for dense smoke, because you just don't want to carry around smoke grenades. You have a limited amount of grenade capability as is. Frost grenades, I always felt like I'm you know, might as well be using the console to cheat whenever I use a frost grenade, because it just feels so broken and so wrong. But also, hey, it's part of the tool set, so I might as well use it. Yeah, I guess the only downside here is that it's really hard on a support Grenadier to find any XCOM perks that are worth it, that you're gonna be really super happy about having. Like, outside of A free smoke grenade. I'm not even sure what I'm looking for on a support grenadier here. I guess defensive perks and mobility perks. So yeah, not much. There weren't any changes to the grenadier class, so not much else to say here. Next up, the gunner. Gunner felt weird this campaign, certainly. Now, we have our suppression gunner, which you can probably count the missions where I heavily relied on suppression on one hand, and you will end up with fingers left remaining. I do like a good kill zone build, and I think we actually had some effective kill zones, but I don't get much value out of suppression, which also might just be me, right? This is not suppression is weak. Like I can see on paper how lockdown and mayhem is really strong, but it just never got around to being that strong. So I'm just not comfortable playing with suppression. I'm gonna be honest. I also think that for me, the gunner has always been my reliable source of shredder, and you find a lot of episodes in this campaign where I was on a mission and I realized, oh god, I didn't bring enough shredding or any shredding at all, because I had one of the two gunners that don't have shredder, and kind of my thought process was, yeah, shredding is covered. Or I didn't think about shredding at all, because naturally I used to always have shredding, because I built every gunner usually as a shooting gunner with the shredder perk. I don't think we got too much value out of demolition, so that's also something that I'm not sure. Again, are we underutilizing it? It feels a little bit like it's not weak, right? Guaranteed cover destruction, like compared to, you need to keep in mind this actually works. So lwotc fixed demolition in vanilla XCOM 2 and vanilla War of the Chosen. Demolition is kinda, yeah, it can destroy the cover, or you might just have wasted your turn. Now this actually works fairly reliably, but at the same time, after you destroy the cover, who takes the damaging shot at the enemy? Yeah, high damage class like a gunner, but your gunner just demolitioned, so I guess your sniper, but the sniper would have hit anyway because they have insane aim, and the enemy, it doesn't matter. Sniper basically ignores cover with good positioning and aim and stock and all that kind of jazz. So demolition. Kill zone's fun, like no doubts about that. I like a good kill zone. But it takes a lot of sacrifices to get there. Now, that also means, like, if you have a kill zone gunner, which you need cool under pressure kill zone, then you don't have cyclic fire, and that is a lot of, like, for me this is the cyclic fire shredder. Well, there's a sector port, bring in the gunner, focus fire that sector port, shred it and take half of its HP off. Like that's the gunner's job, right? And the suppression gunner, the kill zone gunner can't do that job really. Doesn't mean you performed terribly. Well, in terms of kill counter, you kind of did. Anyway, you were just a shooty gunner that didn't quite get levels. And then we have here my standard build for gunners. Even got the Shadow Strike on the XCOM row, which allows for insane saturation fires. This is just my reliable go-to build. It kind of doubles up a little bit with rapid fire and chain shot, and I'm still always debating maybe taking something else. But again, we just talked about demolition, how I don't like it, and I'm about to talk about Iron Curtain. It's like chain shot is nice for when you get it, right? When you reach Staff Sergeant, you get chain shots, heavy mechs start to show up, and you just demolish them with chain shot. And then you move on, and stronger mechs show up, and then you start just using rapid fire chain shot. That is fine. That is fine, I think. It's still a solid choice for me. I don't see any reason to change up anything here. So let's come to, and let's also, 27 kills, 27 missions, 110 kills. I think this is our highest kill count so far on our soldiers. 32 missions is probably one of our highest mission counts, with only 64 kills. So let's come to whatever this abomination of a spec is. I'm actually surprised how well Annie performed here, despite having some questionable perk choices. I don't think we ever got much value out of Iron Curtain. The idea was to have something that is like a ghetto saturation fire, especially for an opener, but at the end of the day, once we had saturation fire, like this wasn't even in the thought process of, oh, maybe instead of killing everything, I want to cripple their movement. No, it just doesn't come up anymore. This eats through the ammo, right? The amount of times where I was sitting there without any ammo left for cyclic fire was staggering, also because I didn't equip an elite expanded magazine. But anyway, something like Hail of Bullets that eats so much ammo. Rupture, I think also requires free ammo. You're using up so much ammunition, which kind of makes this sometimes a little bit too questionable. There's also the point I mentioned earlier with Shredder. We did have a bunch of Overwatchers in the squads, but still I don't think Flush got too much value. Although I can see, you know, Flush versus Formidable, it's not like Formidable got us too much value either. Did we combatives tank anything during this campaign? I think we might have had one or two situations. We tanked a single attack from a gatekeeper. That's one combative situation I remember. But other than that, I still am not sure if that's going to be a choice for me in the future. So I don't think our squads got significantly weaker by having Annie instead of Holly on a mission. But they got weaker, like not significantly, but it definitely felt weaker. So some key perks that were just missing here from this, mostly Shredder and some other multi-shot perk that is not cyclic fire. Rupture, did we get value out of this? I know I used it a few times, but I think if I would have had rapid fires in those situations, it probably would have been more damage. So yeah, that was fun. But I think if that would have been the standard shooty build, then we would probably see here a 3-digit number and dominating the fields. Okay, moving on. Next up in the alphabetical order are Psionics, which, before we actually talk about Psionics, I just want to point out I did really enjoy using the Boltcaster again this campaign. Like, I think I hadn't even built this weapon in a long while, and the beta version did buff a bunch of the Alien Hunter weapons, including the Boltcaster, and it just felt like a good choice. The getting automatically lock and load and concentration is really strong. Is this the best class to use the weapon? I don't know. I haven't spent too much thought on it, but it kind of worked out with like being able to face walk to a flank and then just shoot, and if you get the kill, you get the reload. It worked. It worked. Now, Psyops, there weren't any major changes. There's nothing excitingly new I want to say about Psyops. We got them, I think at a normal-ish point in the campaign, so definitely didn't do a Psy rush this time. Also only got one person to the highest rank here. it's, to me, this might again be a me thing, right? Where I'm building a squad and I'm thinking like, yeah, okay, I need a hacker, or I need a Shinobi for scouting, and I need somebody for shredding, and I need a shooter, somebody with AoE, and then like I sent the squad on the way and I thought, okay, I didn't even think about, oh, I need a psionic. It doesn't feel like it fits in, but it never feels like, or for me personally, I never get this feeling, oh, I really want to bring a Psi here. Which is probably doing them not a great service, because I think even the baseline kit, Insanity and Mind Merge and Soulfire, just alone bring enough to the squad that you can probably always fit a Psi if you want to. So that's more on me to encourage. I need to encourage myself to use Psis more, or just bring them more reliably. You can also see that half of our guys here, no, 4 out of 6 aren't even bonded to anyone, which, since I often use bonds as my decision maker on who I bring on the squad, didn't help the cause, right? The only other takeaway from this campaign is that while I previously thought Soulstorm was super hot garbage and it's a big mistake to even consider taking it, it wasn't that terrible. I think we made it work a few times. It does pose its own challenges, and it's not just universally useful like a Void Rift. It's also not super hot garbage. I think it's in a okay state. What else? I hated that my what was it? My domination in that one mission was just cancelled by an enemy stasis. It's like, oh, you can use this ability once per campaign, and our baseline ability from priest cancels it. That felt mean. I'd say not much else to say here. Let's move on to the next guys. Taking us straight to the ranges, with 89 here, 109 kills here. Like, shooty rangers, the kill stealers of the game. Again, one of those safety nets I fall back on. Shooty ranger with this kind of build, with Walkfire. We're not taking our Vigilant. I think, say, probably got us a dozen kills having this over this in this campaign, easily. It's just the additional aim for I need to finish off this enemy just seems good. I also think that, I'm not sure if it was on the beta patch or at some other patch, that the damage penalty for Walkfire was reduced, so that works fine. Executioner is down to 15/15 from 2020. Locked On is down to only 10 crit from 20 crit. I didn't think those changes impacted us too much. It didn't feel super nerfed. It still felt like reliable spec got in there. Then the other big change on the Ranger class in this patch is been the addition of scrap metal, which makes the sort of shotgun ranger a little bit more reliable on the ammo count. I'm still not convinced. I would have to take notes in the future. How often did I use the extra ammo that I get from scrap metal? How often did I actually run out of sort of shotgun ammo before I got that? I don't know. Maybe the realization is going to be, yeah, you know what, scrap metal sounds nice on paper, but having rapid fire, like I did in the past when I built a ranger like this, is maybe a little bit more consistent, so they can help more out in other situations. Tough to say. I'm not gonna say that this is definitely not bad performance here. So I think both of our sort of rangers really did good jobs. We got fewer missions here, 15 missions and still Master Sergeant. I think that's a really good performance also. Mobility is king. And yeah, I like playing high mobility classes. That's probably not a secret. Now, let's talk about this. So, halfway through the campaign, we had this big change to covering fire, where it no longer applied that aim penalty, which some people say never really worked anyway. And there's really no reliable way, I think, to test this, because everything that shows you the enemy hit chance just relies on mods correctly telling you that, and the amount of times that enemy hit chance thing showed me 100% on a miss is just way too high to rely on that. Then there's also always this argument that comes up with, oh, the game doesn't recalculate a shot halfway through the shot because you took a covering fire shot on it. And it's like, okay, but if my covering fire shot kills the enemy, then it also basically recalculates the shot because the shot was interrupted and prevented. So if it can do that, like the result of the shot is not set in stone before my counter shot happens, right? There's still something is going to change there. So if it can completely not do damage because I kill the unit, then you can also recalculate the hit chance. Or rather, the AI knows before taking the shot that this shot is going to be interrupted by covering fire, so I can have a reduced hit chance on this. Anyway, long rant, we no longer have to worry about it because it no longer reduces enemy hit chance. It now ignores cover. I didn't really think I felt that in any way. On the shooting side. On the receiving side, though, it felt that enemy Overwatch units, like Sentinels, felt way stronger later in the game. And it's really now a threat I look out for. Ooh, does that enemy unit have covering fire? Oh crap, we need to find a solution to deal with that. Which can be a little bit intimidating. Other than that, I would have to say there haven't been that many situations during the run of this campaign where covering fire triggered at all. Not as in it's bugged and doesn't trigger, but rather we weren't in a situation where covering fire would have triggered with this specific soldier in this specific campaign. So I'm still kind of thinking, if I'm building an Overwatcher, it doesn't really matter, and maybe there's often situations where you might want to have locked on instead anyway, just to have more reliable direct shooting options, since you're missing out on so many other of the direct perks. If they are in a situation where Overwatch is required, then of course something like Rapid Reaction shines. Killzone, fun ability, I still think probably in the future I would still take Combat Fitness, because hey, I'm getting 3 shots out of Rapid Reaction anyway. How often am I going to get more than 3 Overwatch shots in a Killzone? And if there's still the factor of skill zones sometimes being a little bit wonky. I remember supply rate where it wasn't going off and this kind of stuff, so maybe just being on rapid reaction is more flexible, and having the extra aim is going to be good. But yeah, it's, again, in terms of raw numbers, is definitely not a bad mission and kill count, but also not as impressive as his fellow ranges. Which brings us straight to the Sharpshooters. So there's not much to say. There's no really exciting news about death from above Sharpshooters. They still work, they still get an enormous mission to kill ratio, although, you know, this is our ranger had more kills in this campaign. So yeah, but reliable workhorse. I would have to see what your starting aims were. But it's kind of a thing where you kind of want there's a lot of missions where you really just want one of these, right? They take the kills, they have that disabling shot where you can park that sector port for 3 turns and say, yeah, I'll deal with you later. And yeah, sharpshooters, not much else to say. We have our holo targeting officer, which we had kind of crappy starting aim, and I think we put a lot of resources in. Like we have a +11 PCS here, and we've run 2 covert actions for extra aim. And you know, if you compare here, we are 96 here with +11, that's 107, and we got like 9 aim from the covert actions. So we were really on a low aim person here, and it kind of still makes it work. But it also shows you if you have a super high aim sharpshooter, this can be at 115, 116, maybe 120 you can eke out. That's a lot of extra aim for the rest of the squad with lead by example, wherever it is. It's not going to give you much kills, but this of course is not a stat you can really rely on, because you are providing killing power to the rest of the squad, and it always, I think, felt impactful. If I could multi-target something, getting the extra damage from vital point targeting, the hit chances on any holo-targeted enemy just felt surprisingly well. Like the amount of times where I took a shot and I'm like, oh, this is 100%, wow, oh yeah, he's holo-targeted, that's why. This is kind of, to me, a go-to officer. Build it in every campaign, build one holo-targeting sharpshooter, you'll never regret it. They take some, you know, you need to carry them through a little bit until they get the good holo-targeting skills and enough officer abilities to help the squad. But once they're there, it's such a huge force multiplier. Alright, but now, yeah, our Snapshot guy. 133 kills. Like, that is 20% more kills than anyone else in the roster here. With our ranger had 109, I think was the second highest kill count. And I don't even know why. Part of the reason is probably, again, the early promotion. I'm fairly certain he was one of our gatecrasher soldiers, so he just saw more action than everybody else. Yeah, was the mission count 35? Yeah, it's probably the highest mission count we've seen so far. But also the changes to the tree, right? So what happened with Snapshot in the beta version? First of all, we have reposition now, giving you a little bit more mobility. Then a bunch of special shots were now enabled with Snapshot that previously weren't. As in, I think precision and dead eye you can now do with Snapshot, and maybe even disabling. But we didn't take those shots anyway. I would have to check the patch notes. I'm fairly certain that all the special shots can be used with Snapshot now. So, was it really reposition that was the only factor that suddenly made Snapshot viable? Was it a forced viability by him being the first sharpshooter of the campaign and just taking this and not having anyone else having to bring him to the mission? Did I, for the last 6 years, where I always laughed at anyone suggesting Snapshot, was it wrong? I don't know. I honestly don't know what the big factor is. I think, you know, maybe a little bit from all different sides. In the past, my argument has always been like, okay, you pick a perk so you can do what other classes can do anyway, right? As in move and shoot. Like, why don't I just take a gunner? Cannon and sniper rifle do roughly the same damage, and If I have a mobile gunner that moves and shoots, instead of having a sniper that moves and shoots, I might get a different result. But the thing is the flexibility, right? I don't always have to move and shoot. I can also sit still and shoot and be a decent sniper, right? I might not have the steadied weapon that a Death from Above sniper has, but if I'm smart about my setup, I don't need it. I'm just taking a long-range flank, for example. Reposition certainly helped to keep up with the squad, right? And maybe take some more risky flanks where you move to a flank, shoot, and then reposition back to safety. But even before we unlocked reposition, it kind of worked, it kind of ticked. I'm not too sure about my implacable choice here, since that kind of sometimes procced, sometimes didn't. Like, it didn't proc both at the same time, so we didn't get double move actions. I kind of wish the game was more reliable on that, and wouldn't just say, yeah, no, you should get, you killed the enemy, so you get the move from implacable. The enemy was flanked, so you should get the extra move from reposition, but we're only giving you one move, so get wrecked. I think it would not be overpowered to just then get 2 move actions of this, and it would be much more consistent and much more what you would expect, right? Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that snapshot. Like, I can't argue with results, but at the same time I'm also thinking, yeah, I'm not gonna build this again in the future if I'm not playing a campaign where I'm forcing myself to do this. It basically boils down to, you probably need Hunter's Instincts to get that kill count that we achieved here, especially with Serial, but Sharpshooter utility that I expect when I bring a Sharpshooter to the mission is probably Disabling Shot in the late game, and not having that might have made some missions a little bit more difficult. So this is something I still need to think about in the future. Where we're going with this. So yeah, like, if our first Sharpshooter would have been just a normal Death from Above Sharpshooter, maybe this would be 35 missions, 150 kills. No idea. Or maybe when I'm building this, maybe I should consider getting Serial a few more times and just getting that kill count up, because that certainly is a factor on this high kill count we have on our Snapshotter. Anyway, moving on. Which brings us to the Shinobi. Now, the premise of this campaign was, no 2 soldiers with the same spec, pretty much, or rather, build 1 of each spec, and if you build more than 3 soldiers, yeah, sure, we can repeat it. This felt really natural for the Shinobi, because this has always been a class where I use all 3 specs. I've pretty much in every campaign had a officer stealth Shinobi. I do like my shooty Shinobis, and the bread and butter sword Shinobi is just also solid. Like, shooty Shinobi might a little bit depend on what kind of XCOM role perks I'm getting, and also on their stats. But this is not weak in any way, shape or form. Like, I've definitely we've probably demonstrated, especially with the Icarus suit and being able to really take advantage of all the shots you're taking in a single turn, how much damage you can put out. But even without the Icarus suit, with some strong XCOM perks, like something like double tap, you're suddenly really dishing out the damage here. That being said, the good old sword spec does not have to hide, can contribute, and most importantly, all Shinobis are always doing their job of sitting in stealth, sitting in concealment, scouting enemy pods, and making you able to plan your mission and not just blindly run forward. And also here, the stealth Shinobi, I think, got 24 kills, like less than 1 kill per mission. Doesn't matter, it still felt strong enough being able to provide the officer abilities, having almost undetectable scouting, right, thanks to Ghostwalker Covert. And the infiltration times we got, man, I like to rant about tradecraft not being impactful enough, but it still it felt really good. Again, it's a lot of things where I would like to see a more detailed breakdown as of how much infiltration time reduction did I get from tradecraft and how much was because of infiltrator. And it probably was mostly infiltrator, but especially in the late game, there were some infiltrations where I was really surprised. Like we had 6 people and it's like not even 5 days infiltration time. That felt really strong. We didn't build consistent squads, so like the officer operation here is all over the place. Of course, you know, a lot of missions with the Bond made, a lot of missions with Sharpshooter because we did all the HQ assaults and this kind of stuff. But then it kind of falls off. So something I'm gonna try to do in the future campaigns again, build more, kind of more fixed squads. It's, again, leadership bonus to will, dodge and infiltration to soldiers who have served with the same officer. They're really minor. Like, you shouldn't go out of your way to keep the same squad together. But it's a bonus. If you can keep the same squad together, why not take it? Like, it's not like you're sacrificing anything for that. Anyway, as I said, this felt natural, building these 3 different specs. All of them performed reasonably well, as expected. No surprises here in this campaign. Also, Alien Hunter weapons, Fusion X, Shadowkeeper, just solid all around. Moving on. Which brings us to the Specialist. Now this felt weird that I only had 2 Specialists that actually made it to Master Sergeant. Also have to say that our overall Specialist, I don't remember what your starting aim was, but 81 at Master Sergeant feels like you're probably a little bit on the low end. Didn't really get a massive kill count or anything. It just felt weak. I definitely regretted not having Field Surgeon here. You know, we had the covering fire discussion on the Ranger side, so I'm not gonna go into it too much again, but here, like, Field Surgeon would have definitely been the better pick. Because as there's 1 or 2 situations where covering fire even took effect, and it doesn't matter if it's a strong perk or not, but it just, you know, taking a perk on a mission that never has any effect, that's like building a tanking tree. Anyway, I think definitely threat assessment scales or falls off with the amount of Overwatchers you have in the team in general. We didn't have many, and I'm not sure how you had any missions together with Blue, so I don't think we got too much value out of that. And now that Sparks no longer are Overwatching Masters, that doesn't mean we're never gonna take threat assessment again, but it kind of means it lost some of its power, I think. A hacky specialist with officer abilities works. It's, you know, it's solid. It's a workhorse. I'm gonna take a minute here again to rant about combat protocol. I'm 100% convinced that it is, like, the damage was buffed. Great. But I think going to the cooldown instead of charges makes it weaker in a lot of situations. I'm not even sure we ever used it 3 times in a mission, even with the cooldown now, and I have basically unlimited charges. It's just a cooldown, but did we ever use it more than 2 times during the campaign? or since that change was implemented. I don't know. And at that point, then, if we never got to use it a third time, then it's automatically inherently weaker than the charge version, where we were also only able to use it 2 times, but at least back to back. That option is gone. So, not a fan of the cooldown, like the damage boost. What else? We didn't get too much value out of airdrop, I think, this campaign, but that is mostly a squad composition thing and only having a single real damage grenadier. Maybe something in the future, like, again, if you build consistent squads, then having your airdrop guy together with the damage grenadier guy in a squad that they often go on missions together definitely gets you more value out of this. What else is there to say? Yeah, so we only had 2 Master Sergeants, so we never got to experience this healing spec. I'm not even sure why I stopped bringing your missions. Probably because I think the healing spec sucks and we didn't find much use for it. Maybe you got injured and then kind of fell down in the roster. And it's hard to drag you along with a trial by fire officer because you're kind of officer material, so I don't know, that felt weak. And then I'm sorry for whatever this was. You got to tech sergeant, so that's great, and we actually got some value out of interference, and I did appreciate scanning protocol. Like, it's the whole thing of, this is not a bad perk, this is not a bad perk, but it's like, yeah, but it's against this one and this is clearly better. Yeah, it's against this one, which is clearly better. It's a good perks in bad places kind of situation, or good perks up against better perks. Same thing here, you know, rescue protocol. I really like this ability. Do I like it more than threat assessment and full override? Probably not. So, we've seen that, I think, in the previous mod gen campaigns, where you have different classes with different class trees, and or maybe in some classes then more naturally get something like rescue or scanning or interference, and you get to use these abilities then without having to give up something stronger, and you realize, oh, that is actually nice to have. Like, I've definitely liked rescue protocol on other classes a lot. So yeah, this was certainly a spec of a specialist. Our second Overwatch specialist never really got to see any more action, so that not much to say about this. Like, Overwatch specialists, it feels like the natural thing to do if you have high aim with a soldier, but it also doesn't feel super strong. And I'm trying to figure out why in this campaign it didn't quite tick for me. I don't know. I don't know what the factor was. I definitely had more success with Overwatch specialists in the past. But whenever I selected Amaro here for the mission, I was in a little bit of a oof, kind of making the squad weaker here, but let's bring him. That was the gut feeling I had in these situations. I also feel like 24 missions, I feel like I didn't bring you enough with your bondmate, so maybe losing out on that was kind of a factor. Hard to say. Alright, we got one more class to look at. Welcome to... I can't believe you all made it to Master Sergeant, and a look at the technicals. So where do we start? Well, let's go with a good old flame attack. Now, you often find a very low kill count on flame attacks, which is usually because they set everything on fire, control the pot of 8 enemies, and then other people, rangers, come in and steal the kills. But it's just, like, this felt really well. You know, Flamer Technical has always been good. It's the reliable-ish pot opener. I think you were injured for a long time and still got 26 missions. I wish I had more detailed soldier stats where I would see, like, yeah, he was in sickbay for 2.5 months or something like that. But yeah, so changes in terms of the beta. The beta changed Firestorm to now be this charge ability, and it definitely has some interesting ways it now works. Unfortunately, it no longer works with quick burn. So previously you would move to a position and then quick burn Firestorm and get out of that position. Now you kind of have to have a command or teamwork or rescue protocol available to get them back to safety, because you will never be in safety after doing a Firestorm. I think Firestorm's cover destruction has also been buffed again to what it was in Long War 2. I'm fairly certain Long War of the Chosen, the cover destruction was toned down, also with the idea that the soldier might actually still have cover for himself after using it. Now you're not. You're just always going to be out in the open, and you better have a plan B or C available to get this soldier back to safety. But it, felt good. We didn't take roused for our flame attack. Now, Rocket Scatter has been improved across the board, so maybe you can get away without fire in the hole. But I still like having slightly accurate, more accurate weapons, rockets even. Yeah, I mean, this might still be in future a choice between Burnout and Shredder, but I think Burnout with the new Firestorm especially is kind of necessary. Like, if you can't command teamwork rescue them out of that position, at least they're going to be standing in a smoke cloud, and maybe you throw a 8 protocol on top of that, and then they're basically in heavy cover. Now, what has changed? Well, before we go to the very much changed class, well, technically you also have been changed, right? So we have the new shooting technical tree with rapid fire at the start now, instead of at the Master Sergeant perk. I think it's, at least from this campaign, I can't really say too much about it, because we only got this change very recently. I think it would probably feel really, I want to say strong, having that from the get-go. If you're starting the campaign and have a soldier that can pick rapid fire on their first promotion, that is some ducker, some shooting power they can put out there. I am still not sure about the rest of this middle row. I think giving up every perk for your gauntlet is a mistake, so going for like Incinerator, Quick Burn felt like it was the right choice. Am I gonna spend a minute ranting about Crusader Rage and how it feels like a terrible perk here in the Master Sergeant row? Yes, absolutely. Someone said the other day that, oh, it's a great perk, it's basically 6 free ablative. No, that's not. Like, 6 free ablative would be on top of it. It kind of changes 6 of your HP into ablative, but you can still heal him. But it's really like the damage output of enemies is too high to go to just take the injury during a mission, which, hey, you don't have the wound recovery time, but you're going to be injured. You're going to be so hard in the one-shot range, and enemies do prioritize kill shots. Like, even if there's a shot that has a higher hit percentage, which normally, okay, side rant, normally Advent always shoots at whatever is the easiest shot for them, right? Where they have the highest hit percentage. But there is some bias towards taking kill shots. It's like, oh yeah, I have a 70% shot to hit that guy, but I have a 50% shot there, and if I hit, I kill this soldier. Let's take the kill shot. So if you're gambling with Crusader's Rage and being on lower health for that little bit of damage boost, you're just playing with disaster. And if you're already low on health and you get hit, there's of course also the bigger chance of you getting hit so hard that you're not even bleeding out, that they straight one-shot you. Like the bleed out chance scales, or rather, yeah, inversely scales with the amount of overkill damage the enemy did to you. If they just got you to 0 health, you have a much higher chance of bleed out as opposed to them shooting you for 5 more damage than you had HP left. So to me, the pure thought of, hey, to get any value out of this perk, I need to be injured, that's just too much of a risk. And saying, oh, it's a safety net is like, the safety nets are formidable as a safety net, and it's a corporal ability. A Master Sergeant ability is something I want to have value of every single mission I go to. Like, this is the capstone perk of the tree. And I will get value out of Bunker Buster every single mission. I will probably get value out of Firestorm. Crusader's Rage is like, you will see it at the end of the campaign, how many of the missions were flawless missions that we played. And you have to see that something like Crusader's Rage would not get any value on a flawless mission. And so why am I picking this? Why is this here? Okay, rant over. I hate this perk. Get it out of here. Anyway, yeah, the concussion rocket was updated. It we actually got some good value out of it. I'm happy to have this. Oh, also, yeah, hang on. I just realized we hadn't respec'd you to pick up the new trait. So Roused and Napalm have swapped positions. So you're definitely not taking fire in the hole anymore. Actually, okay, let's look at this updated tree with a Flamer spec in mind. So yeah, you wouldn't take fire in the hole because Napalm X is so good. So then it's a question, do you take on a Flamer technical Roused or do you take Concussion Rocket? And the answer is, I don't know. Probably a Concussion Rocket might be a viable choice. Then again, without fire in the hole, that's not that accurate anymore. I honestly don't know. Maybe you take Formidable. Which is free ablative. Anyway, Rocket Technical. I like having more and specialized rockets. Like, one of the biggest complaints about the old Rocket Technical was that for most of the campaign you have once you have Exo or Warsuit, 2 rockets. Like, you invest all your perk points into abilities that make your rocket stronger, and you can only fire once or maybe twice. So now you get 1, 2, 3, 4 special rockets on top of your 2 regular rockets. That's a lot of explosive power. The downside is that we basically lost 2 perks along the way. The big loss is Javelin rockets. There's definitely situations where I'm missing the loss of the 6 tiles, and I made that statement a few times during the missions. I think there's also some combination with the Blaster Gauntlet. So with the Blaster Gauntlet, your rocket no longer flies in a direct line, but is a little bit like the Blaster Launcher from the old XCOMs, right, where it flies a path, it flies around obstacles, and it almost feels like you're losing range there. So maybe the extra range could be baked into the Gauntlet to give at least some of that back. I don't think... Yeah, it still has same rocket range 18. I really feel like you lose range because your rockets will fly around obstacles and a tier 2 gauntlet will effectively hit targets further away. So maybe increasing the rocket range here, maybe not by 6 tiles, but maybe by 3 tiles might be a compromise. That also would justify the abhorrent cost that it has, like 2 Elerium cores for a Burster Gauntlet, when all it does is like what, 2 points more damage on average or something like that. That might not be... Does it even increase? Yeah, and you get 1 additional point of shred. Ooh, whoop-de-doo, big deal. So yeah, that's the one thing we lost. The other thing we lost was tandem, which who cares? Never really mattered. As much as I like tandem warheads on Grenadiers because they do damage, rocket is mostly for the effect, for the cover destruction, or here for the special rockets, for the shredding effect, for the MP effect, or for more cover destruction effect, for the disorient, whatever. It's an effect applier and a cover destruction tool. So tandem warheads never really, I think, had much of a place in the rocketry anyway. I almost want to say, I don't even remember. Hang on. You still have the old tree. Yeah, I think on rocket technicals, when I built them in the past, I very often took formidable over tandem because tandem is kind of crummy on a rocket tech. Yeah, this is there. Javelin rockets, we miss you. We miss you, buddy. I hope you're doing well. Okay, but that's the technical. And that's the last of the classes here. So certainly some interesting class changes that came with the beta version, and nothing I hate. Outside of the missing of Javelin and Crusader's Rage and maybe the Combat Protocol cooldown. But other than that, some great changes there, and I really like that the game is still being actively worked on. Big shout out to our modders. This is you're keeping this game alive, and respect. Alright, this is the big old class Ramble. We're gonna go to the big old final 2 missions over the next days, and a new campaign then coming up afterwards. For now, we're gonna put a cut in here. Thanks for watching. See you next time.